This is Will Morris, Executive Medical Director of Cleveland Clinic Innovations, and welcome to another Health Amplified, a Cleveland Clinic podcast. Today, we have a phenomenal guest. In celebration of our 100th year and our centennial, we wanted to look back at those key events in our history that really establish the synergy of research, cutting-edge policy, and changes in the way we view patient care. And 3 is surgical technique and innovations around that. And so it's absolute honor to have Dr. Maria Siemionow. She is currently the professor of orthopedics and director of microsurgery research at University of Illinois, Chicago. She is famously known for performing the first, with a team, allograft near total face transplant in 2008. What you won't know or might not know is the years of work, the years of research, and the IRB that was the first in the world to go ahead and approve this groundbreaking surgical technique. And we'd love to kind of explore that. And so, Dr. Siemionow, it's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Well, thank you very much for the invitation, and also it's an honor to be a part of the centennial celebration. I'm very happy that I will be able to share the years of preparation to the first face transplantation performed in the United States, and at that time, I would say the largest face transplantation. And the years which were, of course, counted, I always compare it to the fact that the surgery was taking over 20 hours, but the preparation was taking over 20 years.
Yep.
And by preparation to the surgery, I mean different experimental work performed in the laboratory. There was also a lot of logistics in preparing the team, but most important, as you have mentioned, was achieving and getting approval from the Institutional Review Board, IRB, at Cleveland Clinic. And that took a long time.
And so for those in the audience, can you explain a little bit about the function of the IRB and how did you navigate this? Because, being a world's first and an innovator requires risk, trust, and the ability to kind of articulate that vision. So take us back to, before 2004 when you got the approval. What did that take?
Well, overall, it took 1 year to get approval. However, the protocol which I've submitted, first protocol which I submitted to IRB, was about 20 pages long. And the final one was 120 pages long. So you can imagine that this 100 pages extra were just related to the answers to the IRB committee. IRB is the committee of both experts in the medical fields, like transplant surgeons, reconstructive surgeons, but also physicians, general medicine specialists, kidney transplant experts, and also lay people, and just from the streets, I would say, who can ask the question, lawyers. So it was pretty challenging for the first time to stand in front of IRB committee, and I was alone, and the room was full of people who were asking, "You are going to do what?" And face transplant was really unheard of at that time, and this was really amazing to see how the IRB committee got involved and understood over the time when we have meeting almost every month for a year, when I was explaining and responding to all questions which were asked for, about what this technically, how does it relate to the identity of the patients, identity of the donor. And whenever they asked the question, I was coming already with the response, which was coming from experimental work performed in my laboratory in Cleveland Clinic, or we have even done additional cadaver studies in an anatomy lab to show that the identity of the patients will not change after receiving a face transplant from another donor. There was a lot of discussion with ethics. People were afraid that when you will actually donate your organs, people will take your faces. So there was a lot of debate also in the media outside of our institution, where some of the ethics experts were saying, oh, you know, people will be throwing their driver's license, they will be not donating organs. So it was challenging, but I think very rewarding, because I was patiently responding to all questions asked by IRB.
Yeah, I think that's, and you know, I reflect while you were commenting, I think with the pandemic and the vaccination, the speed in which we actually now have an effective vaccination, I think there is a general misunderstanding that, you know, the development of an mRNA vaccine took, you know, 7 months.
Yes.
And what you don't see is the years, the decades of dedication, research, benchtop, you know, work, surgical technique, logistics, and it seems, and I love how you articulated a 20-hour surgery, which is monumental as a humble internist, but the 20 years that you don't see that went in is absolutely inspired.
Sure. And I would say that, of course, this is always a team effort. I have, you know, to mention that it was very, very important to get support of Cleveland Clinic, you know, leadership, as well as Department of Plastic Surgery leadership, with Frank Papey being the major promoter of this procedure. So at the very end, when I actually went through all these steps and answered all the questions, at one of the last meeting, I said, Frank, you have to go with me just to stamp it, you know, and that's what happened. And I think what was perceived by IRB was that I was not offended by any of the questions. And some of them could be offending, I would say, but was trying to understand where the people are coming from, because not everybody was the expert in surgery or medicine, and I think that was very appreciated.
Yeah, and I think the public and the scientific community as a whole benefited by your diligence, your patience, and, you know, your detail oriented, because it, and again, I don't know if this was occupying your mind, but this surgery wasn't necessarily just about that specific surgery, but really is the keystone to future, you know, either face transplants or other, you know, advances in the space. And so did you feel that kind of pressure? Did you kind of comprehend that?
I think it's that became not a surgery, but philosophy, and an ethical issue. And I have to also just to share with you that before IRB approval, I have published with my team over 60 peer-reviewed publications, not only in surgical journals, but also in ethics and psychology journals. So I think that was very important to share with the public, like to prompt the public. You know, something is coming. It's not like the Arctic freezing conditions we are getting one day unexpectedly, as it is happening right now in Chicago. But this was more like, they are talking about face transplant. They are doing it in the lab. Oh, they are presenting it at the conference. Aha, they are now telling us that actually ethics is starting to approve it. So that was this all preparatory work, which was involved even before I went to IRB with the first written protocol. And by collaborating and discussing with different faculty members and team members in Cleveland Clinic, but also with friends and colleagues outside of the institution during the national and international meetings, I could see that there is a lot of support and approval for something like a next step. Something should happen, that was never done before, but it's feasible because the solid organ transplantation, of course, has a very, very long history. So why not to come to the new field of what is now known as a vascularized composite allotransplantation.
Mm-hmm. And how do you feel that the attention and certainly the media, followed this intensely because of the complexity, both the surgical technique, the management of the patient with a complex, immunotherapy afterwards, but then also the policy. How has that played with the importance of just organ donation as a whole? Were there, conversations with LifeBank and others to kind of figure out how can this also push the dialogue of the importance of people being organ donors?
Well, that's a very good question. That was a challenge, I would say. Just for the historical record, we received the IRB in 2004, but it took again another year before the organ procurement organizations approved face transplantation as a potential organ. And technically, it was not only talking to LifeBank in Cleveland, but also I was taking a couple trips outside of the region, actually going with Dr. John Funk, driving to Pittsburgh to another organ procurement organization to present them the case and even the patient in terms of presentation, PowerPoint presentation, what we are going to do. Also to Michigan. And this was very challenging because everybody was kind of looking into that. They were discussing, they were looking how it will affect their donor pool. Yep. They will present it to the potential donors or families of the loved ones. We just it takes brevity of someone who will accept that after passing of their loved ones, they will still agree to face transplantation.
Yeah, and then fast forward with just the groundbreaking journal work with National Geographic and their chronicling Katie's story and journey. How has that kind of continued to shape the field and create awareness and conversations?
Sure, I think the important part of being able to show the I would say lay public, with all respect, that they are just normal people who at one point in life, being very young, they turned the life from being great to life being miserable. Yeah. And this National Geographic, of course, piece was I think very, very well respected by internationally, nationally, internationally, of course, in Cleveland Clinic as well. And to present that you can accomplish something, that you have family involved, that you have a team involved, that the patients are not alone. If you lose something in your life so important as your face, or maybe just your kidney, you have the team of physicians who are always behind you. And for me, is the most important is just to share that as any other patient, of course, you almost remember probably most of your patients, but transplant patients are for life. Mm-hmm. As long as they are alive, you see them for the follow-up. And, as a hand surgeon, I would say, when you have a little fingertip injury and you fix it, and in a week the patient is coming and it's healed, then you don't see the patient. Okay, the patient is fixed. But when it comes to transplantation field and face transplantation specifically, which is a very novel procedure for the field, then you see the patients as conical. Yep. She was first, of course, for several months in Cleveland Clinic, but also then she was coming every couple of weeks, then every couple of months, then every half a year, and then at least several times per year, just for the follow-up visit. And we were always on the phone, and her daughter, Alicia, sometimes was texting the picture. Oh, my mom has some redness on the face. Is it a rejection? Mm-hmm. Well, not sure. Just bring her in. So it's emotionally engaging, and it's very important that the audience will understand that we are not just doing something, for being famous or just doing it first, but it's changing the humanity.
Yeah. So fast forward to now. Tell us a little bit about your work. What gets you excited? What are the breakthroughs, the next breakthroughs that you're working on that you feel can again contribute to the amazing impact in this field?
Sure. Just now at University of Illinois, I also opened program for hand transplantation. Just to mention about face transplant program, I think it's fair to emphasize that the two face transplant patients out of 3 performed in Cleveland Clinic were supported by my Department of Defense grant of Armed Forces Institute for Regenerative Medicine. So it would not be possible without this financial support from DoD of several $1 million. That's where the question comes about the future. So where we will have money to support and finance the expensive procedures of transplantation, such as face, which are still not considered standard of care. Yeah. So with standard of care, like a kidney transplant, you can consider and have support from insurance companies, but we are fighting. That's the next step. We are fighting now for just approval of the face transplantation and hand transplantation as a standard of care. So insurance companies will be supporting that. This brings us back to Chicago, where I opened the hand transplant program. I opened one also in Cleveland Clinic at that time. So hopefully we will perform at some point another innovative surgery. But I think the future of this new field of vascularized composite allotransplantation, including face transplantation and hand transplantation and abdominal wall transplants and even penile transplants. All these new organs, I would say, the future, I think, will be the regenerative medicine. Yeah. And a lot of work done in my lab right now is towards creating the combination of the scaffolds, which are based on, for example, facial scaffold, which will be covered with the stem cells, which will be kind of a growing organs. That's one of the options. And the second one, I think, more important in terms of future of the entire field of transplantation is the work which I started in Cleveland Clinic, and I'm continuing here at the University of Illinois at Chicago, is on the tolerance-inducing strategies in transplantation. And you may be interested, as you know, general medicine specialists, that we are performing a fusion between the cells of the donor and recipient coming from bone marrow, and we are creating a chimeric cells, which are donor recipient chimeric cells, and are supporting transplantation of in experimental lab of let's say face with the cells which represent donor and recipient. And we are getting tolerance, which is very important for the solid organ transplantation. But also, just to not be, bored, I brought this chimeric cell therapy towards the field of muscular dystrophy, specifically for Duchenne muscular dystrophy. And we are creating now dystrophin-expressing chimeric cells for application in Duchenne. And talking about innovation, so we have spin-off company based on the license here at UIC for these chimeric cells for Duchenne. And this is actually in preclinical stage. We have talked already to FDA. We're talking to EMA, the European Medicine Agency. And we are preparing first-in-human chimeric cells, which will be representing the father, who is a normal donor, and the father biopsy of the father muscle will be giving us the myoblasts from the donor and then from the recipient, and the chimera will be bringing to the Duchenne patients the regenerative medicine potential.
That is beyond exciting. What I love hearing this, and we are up on time, but I think it actually is a perfect culmination of, you exude intellectual curiosity and passion and advocacy for, impacting a patient's life, whether it be a face, whether it be a hand, Duchenne's muscular dystrophy. But I love, it's all based on hardcore science, relentless work, unbelievable hours, I'm sure, in the lab, researching at seminars, working with colleagues. And I think that to me is the ethos of the 100-year celebration. It's a celebration of our, sheer intellectual curiosity, ability to convene others, and relentlessly pursue avenues even when they shut down. And it just sounds like this story is not ended. And I want to come back maybe in a year or so and hear about the chimeric cells, because I think that is absolutely phenomenal and fascinating, and just such a fascinating output of someone who is so renowned in microsurgery and research.
Well, thank you very much. I would just say at the end that there are certain places where you can achieve success. And Cleveland Clinic definitely promoting science, research, and innovation was the place that this was possible. I'm not sure if it will be possible in some other places. So at the Centennial, I think that's also support of the Cleveland Clinic as an institution may a major difference.
Well, we wish you all the best at the University of Illinois, Chicago, but you can consider yourself you're always family back here in Cleveland. We're a little bit warmer too than Chicago right now, so I'm just saying that. But thank you, Dr. Siemionow. Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Siemionow, for this time. Your impact on, I think, the lives of many, your leadership, your passion, your vision, and we're excited to read the next chapter. Thank you so much. This is Will Morris with a Health Amplified, a Cleveland Clinic podcast.
Thank you again.